And Jesus says, which one was a neighbor to this guy? And you can almost see the lawyer do this. Well, it was this, well, it's the guy who showed mercy. I mean, he can't even bring himself to say it was the Samaritan. Do you see that? He can't even go there. He's just like, yeah, the one who had mercy on him, fine, thanks, I get it. Don't like it. And then Jesus does it again. We have this nice rhetorical argument, this nice little story, this Sunday school lesson. He can say, go home and ponder this a while. But no, Jesus says, go and do likewise. Go and do likewise. What is Jesus telling them? Who's your neighbor? The person you need. He said, who needs your service? That's the neighbor you're supposed to love. Who needs your love? That's the neighbor you're supposed to love. It's easy to love those who are like you. And it's easy to love those who love you back. And it's easy to love people who don't need a lot. Jesus says, love your neighbor and understand that your neighbor is the person in need. Just kind of give you a quick summary of these things, break it down a little bit. Go and do likewise. First of all, you have to understand as a church, service is what we do. That's what Jesus calls us to. That's what Jesus did. Number two, like the robbers, look, doing no harm is a minimal start. Don't beat people up, that's a good start. Okay? Even if you don't like them. Even if you think they're heretical. Even if they are mean. Doing no harm is a minimal start. Number three, remember, there will always be good reason not to help. I really want you to understand that because God is going to put service in your... I almost guarantee you, God does not present a teaching to us like this without following it up with opportunity. I almost guarantee you this week or next week soon, you're going to come to the opportunity and the first thing in your head is going to be a really good reason why you shouldn't help. But what do? As I said, the burden is overwhelming. Does that mean you run off and you try to help everybody everywhere? Every time you see a commercial about a starving child in Africa, do you send money to that particular organization? Every time you hear about somebody who's hurting anywhere, do you fly off across the country to help them? Not generally. God leads you to do, but not generally. Really, how did this Samaritan know that this guy needed help? Because he walked right up to him. He's on the road. There's the guy. What did the priest and the Levite do? Were they supposed to not do their God-fearing ministry duties to go find someone else who needed help? No. But as God put something in their path, should they have possibly seen it as part of the ministry duties God had for them that day? I think they should have. They forgot what the purpose of their ministry was, which was service. So what do? Follow the good works laid before you. I believe it is entirely possible to get overwhelmed with the number of good works that could be done. I believe that there are any number of good organizations out there you give your money and your time to. I believe that you can't be overwhelmed as you watch the news and you see this and that and that. The truth is, there are infinitely more needs than you can take care of. I understand that. And God doesn't call you to do that. God is still God. God has a plan. But part of his plan is that he scatters these needs, and more importantly, he scatters his people where those needs are. And as you're walking down the road this week, when you see that Samaritan laying on the ground, you say, what a nuisance, what a hindrance, I guess God put it there. Guess God put it there. Look for the good works God's laid in front of you. What does he put in front of you? What are the contacts that come to you? What are the things that line up with your life and your sphere? And often will line up with your abilities. Isn't it interesting that the Samaritan had oil and wine and money and a donkey? That's interesting. He had what was needed. If you come upon a situation and you don't have what's needed to help, maybe God wants you to pray or to find somebody who can. Follow the good works laid before you. I completely believe Ephesians 2:10 says that we are God's masterpiece. Each of us are God's masterpiece. And what that means is that He has prepared good works beforehand for us to walk. And our masterpiece unfolds as we serve in those works. For you. It's for you. He's put it there for you. And we're all different. How it's going to come for you, what your abilities are, and what the good works will look like for you, it'll be different than it looks like for me. I've shared before, many of you have heard these stories, talked to my kids. Weirdest things happen when I'm in the grocery store. One day I'm sitting, I told this for a long time, my daughter's like, yeah. One day my daughter's with me, Lori is sitting in the van, I'm sitting in the van, I'm at Walgreens, my other daughter's running to get something. And there's a guy talking on a cell phone walking back and forth. And this has happened so frequently in my life. I don't want to help this guy. I'm like the priest and the Levite at this point. I'm turning my eyes away from him because I know if he catches my eyes, he's going to come talk to me. I'm like rolling up the window of my van. And I'm not looking him in the eyes. Because this has happened so many times. Someone's in distress and they see my eyes and I have no idea why. But they come to me and they say, help. I say, I'm juggling 6 kids. What are you talking about? So I'm sitting in the van. The guy's on his cell phone. He's yelling. He's yelling. People are making a wide berth around him to go in. I am not kidding you. It's not a great moment. I am rolling up the van window. I am looking down. Did not want to do this. And he yells particularly loud at one point, and I can't help it. When someone yells, you look up, right? So he yells particularly loud, and I look up just as he slams his cell phone shut, and yes, his eyes meet mine. And he stomps right over to my van. My window's rolled up. He stomps right over to my van, and he stands and yells at my shut window. He says, what am I going to do about her? Tell me, what am I going to do? I don't know what's wrong. And we had about a 5 or 10 minute conversation. This guy was very angry with his girlfriend, and I tried to give him the wisdom that I understood at the moment, and he walked off. And Lori turns to me and says, that was weird. She says, that really does happen to you. I said, it really does. It's not going to happen that way to you. Fine, I understand that. But for me, that's how it happens. That's the way God lays the good works in front of me. It's about this eye contact thing. You know, I'm having a bad day, but I'm not looking at anybody. I want to talk to you. But it's there. It'll be different for you. It'll come to you in different ways, but if you're alert and you're open to it, I have figured out one thing, and that's that the truth is, I tend to respond. If people say to me, I need help, I tend to say, okay, even though I have no idea what to do. But you'll find if you do that, God will provide more opportunities. So follow the good works laid before you, and remember, it says here, declare, the world would be a changed place if every Christian attended the sorrows that are plain before him. I think that's the point. It's a big point, isn't it? If every Christian just took care of what was right in front of him, just loved that person who was lonely right in front of him, served that person that was needy right in front of him, it would change the world. It's not a question of numbers. Even the most conservative estimates of how many people are Christians in the world puts it between a fourth and third of every human being. That means we only have to do it 4 times to serve the entire world. Really, if every Christian was attentive to the sorrow in front of them, how much would that change?